Rain lashed against the cracked windshield of a worn-out pickup truck as Daniel Reeves gripped the steering wheel with calloused hands. His 5-year-old daughter, Lily, slept soundly in the back seat, clutching her worn teddy bear, the only toy she had left after their home was foreclosed. Daniel's mind raced through unpaid bills, empty cupboards, and the echo of his wife's final words before she passed, "Be strong for her." He'd tried. God knew he'd tried. But that night, as he drove home from another failed job interview near the coast, Daniel had no idea that his life, and his daughter's future, was about to change forever. It started with a sound that didn't belong to the storm, a thunderous roar that split the night sky, followed by a flash of fire streaking downward into the dark ocean. Daniel slammed on the brakes, eyes widening as a private jet crashed into the waves just beyond the pier. Without hesitation, he jumped out, tearing off his jacket, the icy rain slicing into his skin. "Daddy, no!" Lily's tiny voice cried out behind him, but Daniel had already made up his mind. Someone was out there, someone who needed help. He sprinted across the slick boards, the wooden planks groaning under his boots. The jet's fuselage hissed and steamed as the cold sea devoured it. The smell of fuel and salt filled the air. Daniel dove into the black water. For a moment, all sound vanished, just the crushing silence of the deep, the weight of freezing waves pressing in. Then he saw it, a figure trapped inside, pounding weakly against the glass. Daniel kicked hard, yanked the emergency hatch open, and pulled the man out with every ounce of strength left in him. By the time the Coast Guard arrived, Daniel was on the shore, soaked and shivering, performing chest compressions on the unconscious stranger. Lily knelt beside him, crying. "Daddy, is he gonna die?" Daniel didn't answer. He just pressed harder, refusing to give up. Finally, the man gasped, coughing up salt water, his eyes flickering open to the sight of a drenched single father and a little girl in a rain-soaked blanket. The man's name was Charles Vance, CEO of Vance Aerospace Industries, one of the most powerful companies in the world. But Daniel didn't know that. To him, he was just another life worth saving. After giving his statement to the authorities, Daniel carried Lily back to the truck, started the engine, and drove off before anyone could ask more questions. He wasn't looking for thanks or reward. He just wanted to get home, make sure Lily was warm, and hope for a better tomorrow. But tomorrow brought the impossible. The next morning, as Daniel stepped out of their tiny rental apartment, rubbing sleep from his eyes, he froze. Parked outside were 3 black Cadillacs gleaming in the sunlight, their engines humming softly. Men in suits stepped out, followed by a familiar face, clean-shaven now, wearing an immaculate gray suit, Charles Vance himself. "Mr. Reeves," Charles said, his voice warm but commanding. "I believe you saved my life last night." Daniel blinked, unsure what to say. I just did what anyone would have done." Charles smiled faintly. "No. Most people would have stood and watched. You jumped into fire and ice for a stranger." He glanced down at Lily, who hid behind her father's leg. "And you did it with a little girl waiting on shore." Charles handed Daniel an envelope. Inside was a cashier's check for $50,000. Daniel's breath caught. "I can't accept this," he said quickly. "I didn't do it for money." "I know," Charles said. "That's why you deserve it." He paused. "But there's more. Come with me. I want to show you something." Daniel hesitated, but something in Charles's tone, a mix of gratitude and purpose, made him nod. He buckled Lily into the Cadillac, and they drove through the city, past towers of glass and steel, until they reached a gated complex overlooking the ocean. Inside stood a small aircraft hangar, the wreckage of the jet Daniel had pulled Charles from. "I could have died that night," Charles said quietly, looking at the twisted metal. "And if I had, my company would have gone to people who only see numbers. But you reminded me that life's not about power or money, it's about people." He turned to Daniel. "You used to work in mechanics, didn't you? I read your file from the Coast Guard report." Daniel nodded slowly. "Yeah. Lost my job 2 years ago when the plant closed. Charles gestured to a team of engineers nearby. I'm starting a new division, Aviation Safety Systems. I need people I can trust. People who care. You'll start as a lead mechanic. Full salary, benefits, housing included. Daniel's jaw fell open. You're serious? Charles smiled. Completely. Tears welled in Daniel's eyes as he looked down at Lily, who was beaming up at him. For the first time in years, hope didn't feel like a distant dream, it was real, standing right in front of him. Weeks turned into months. Daniel flourished at his new job, his natural skill and quiet determination earning the respect of everyone around him. Lily started school in a safe neighborhood, and laughter returned to their evenings. Charles became more than a boss, he became family. The two men often sat by the ocean at dusk, watching planes pass overhead, bound by a night neither would ever forget. One evening, as the sun sank into the sea, Charles said softly, "You know, Daniel, I thought I was saving you that morning when I offered you the job. But the truth is, you saved me twice. Once from the water, and once from myself." Daniel smiled, eyes glistening. Maybe we both needed saving. The waves rolled gently, golden light spilling across the horizon, a reminder that even in life's darkest storms, a single act of courage can pull two souls from the depths and change everything. And as the camera fades, Lily's laughter echoes in the background, pure, free, and full of promise, because sometimes, heroes don't wear uniforms or capes. Sometimes, they drive old trucks, chase hope through the rain, and dive into darkness, not to be seen, but to save.